Hi, I'm Cyaneink, and this is my 100 head challenge video where I talk about how I did the challenge, how I like it, and also give some tips and tricks how you can make your life a little bit easier with this challenge if you want to try it out. But first, about my journey. I started this challenge and it's created by Ahmed Aldori. I will link his video down below, and it is really simple. You travel 100 heads and you have 10 days time. So that roughly means 10 heads per day. Of course, I didn't keep up that pace. I had to travel quite many heads on the last days, but I succeeded. I got this completed in 10 days. And for me, biggest challenge was maybe trying not to go too detailed, because you actually don't have that much time per head. And because I recorded almost everything I drove, some parts I didn't remember to hit the record button, so I didn't record those. But roughly it took me 15 hours to complete the whole challenge, and that counts like 1.5 hours per day. That's quite a lot of time if you think about that. So it's definitely not an easy challenge, and definitely if you know you don't have time for next 10 days, I don't recommend picking this challenge up, because you will get most out of this challenge if you can devote more time for this. First, I actually used the reference photos that Ahmed Aldori have been collecting on the Instagram, but about halfway point I got bored on those and decided to use my own reference photos, and I have also a Pinterest board on that, and I will link my own board as well on down if you want to try that out. I have distinct style I want to use from my references. You will notice that soon when you start to draw those. And for me, my main tools were graphite pencil. I use often just for the initial layer, and then fountain pens. And for me, I think you get most out of this challenge if you don't vary your tools so much. I try to use tools I use normally when I'm sketching. And tools I use regularly in the sketching are graphite pencil and fountain pen, sometimes directly with the fountain pens. And I almost used fountain pens all of my sketches. It is my most used tool. And because this challenge actually is spun for 2 weeks, I had 2 live streams, and those were devoted for this challenge, and I will link those in the iCard so you can see real time my head sketching if you want to see that, because this video is sped up 80 times. I think it was what I used. It's really sped up because it took so much time, and I had squish it to the reasonable time. So yeah, it takes so much time. But I definitely think the challenge was well worth the time, because I felt and noticed the improvement in my drawing skills quite in the early on. I noticed that they improved so much, and I have actually some comparison coming up on Instagram, and I also have one on the thumbnail, I think, so you can see how it went from the first days to last day. And I really felt it's made my sketching, my head sketching, more faster and more accurate. And for me, it's finally clicked how that other eye problem, how to get eyes look like they are pair even if they aren't in the same shape, because there's perspective and turning and stuff going. So that's finally hit me, and I finally felt that I got that. Also, it really improved how I draw noses and lips and other features in the face that has been a problem for me. And because my tool of choice was fountain pen, I didn't get that much to detailed shading, because fountain pens, only thing I have is cross hatching. But then that's okay, is because usually the tool I use for sketching is fountain pen, and I usually draw with fountain pen, so I probably wouldn't get that much out of it if I would have used pencil, that I almost never use in my sketchbook because it's much so easily. So I definitely recommend that use tool that you use normally, and don't just pick pencil because it's the easiest one. But for the tips how you can get this challenge, win it, definitely one thing is that don't spend too much time on one head, and don't draw 2 big heads. I used A5 size sketchbook, and I noticed when I watched how other people did this challenge, I noticed that I drew way larger heads than they. But I think one reason I did that is because fountain pens need a bit more space. They need to be drawn larger to look like nicer. But don't travel to big heads and devote enough time. Don't like rush through it, because I think you get more out of this challenge if more you spend time on this. If you rush through it, I'm sure you will get some improvement out, but it will be not so noticeable than if you have spent like 10 minutes for 15 minutes per head. And I also recommend keeping these heads in sketchbook if you draw traditionally, because I noticed if I draw them on sketchbook, I keep them organized and I actually numbered my heads. So I have a clear like timeline how I improved, and I don't have like no problem. Like I would imagine 100 heads drawn on loose sheet of paper would be like heads floating everywhere, and it would be hard to like notice how your like improvements goes. And one of the main things here is to use reference photo, because even if you are like good to draw heads, when you're using reference photo, you have something to reference on. You're not like just like leaning on your memory, because your memory may be not accurate, and you're not improving that much if you just draw from your imagination. I think key way to improve your drawing is like draw from reference photos. Better at live references, but it's pretty boring to travel if you have like mirror and draw your own face like 100 times if you don't have like models or anything. Also, if you feel that 10 days is too short time, I recommend still trying the challenge and setting like not so finite timeline. Like you can just decide to draw 100 heads and don't care about the time at all, which I have seen many people do, and it's as effective as this one. It just takes more time. And if you feel that you get bored out with this challenge, like I did with Ahmed Aldori references, I decided to try my own references that I like more. And I also varied the font pen I used. I used sometimes like mostly extra fines, but sometimes I used ultra extra fine. Sometimes I use a pencil sketch underneath, sometimes don't. I use different colored inks, so that way I get like a little bit variation, because it can get actually quite quickly become bored when you draw like same thing over and over again. And you can also affect that can be also like if you chose reference photo that has like hat or like accessories and draw those as well, that can keep it like more interesting. Also, I recommend picking up like bunch of reference photos beforehand and then like start your drawing session and draw like all heads at once, if you work that way. But you can also do like draw like 5 heads in the morning and 5 heads in the evening, or like draw 1 head and then go on the stuff and then draw a couple of hours later draw 1 head again. But for me personally, I work best like working in sessions, so that's why I drawed almost all of my daily heads like in one sitting. And I actually didn't complete my sketchbook with these heads, because my sketchbook has a bit more pages than I anticipated. But I'm continuing the head challenge on my own, and I'm going over 100 heads and fill the sketchbook with the heads, because I think it's not like I stop improving. I think I can improve it even more if I fill a whole sketchbook with the heads and draw like 200 heads or something. And that's all what I have to say today. If you like this type of videos, subscribe to my channel, because that really helps me. And also like to leave a thumbs up and leave a small comment below. And if you want to see my live streams, I live stream every Sunday, and I have a bunch of live streams on my channel. I live stream like every Sunday, so I have quite many of those. And also two of my latest live streams are about this head challenge. So there you can see real time how this goes, and I also talk a little bit more about how I like the challenge. And leave the comment below. Have you tried the challenge, or are you going to try it? I really like to hear that. Hope I see you in my other videos as well. Bye!